it's weird because like I kind of took it as like a badge of honor of like I don't take breaks. I play every day. I play for like 8 hours a day, and like people see it as like a grind or like work ethic, but it might be like destructive, right? Like if you play too much, like it could be really destructive because
Yeah.
you just need time off. Like you need time to reflect on things and just accept that sometimes like life's not all about poker.
Welcome today, Landon Tice, as my guest on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about his heads-up challenge against Bill Perkins, and as well as his journey. I mean, he is right now probably the most passionate player in poker. If you haven't checked him out yet, check him out. You will probably he will spark some inspiration, motivation as well. So, yeah, very excited to have him here on the show today. He's also going to be sharing his take on taking breaks, how to deal with downswings, and it was a very interesting talk. I did not expect this because he's so young. He's 21, yet it feels like he has been around for decades. He's doing so many things right in terms of mindset, understanding of the variance. So if you're new in this journey and maybe you also struggle with this in these areas, then you should definitely check it out and stick around. This is a very, very valuable episode. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, here we are. The upcoming superstar Landon finally on the show. I think it was long overdue. Um, Welcome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm really excited to have you finally here talking with you about your challenge with Bill, your live grind in Vegas, your online grind, your time with Joey, commentating, so much stuff going on. How's it
Yeah,
going? Welcome.
it's it's going great. Can't wait to kind of get into all of it. So
Let's do this. So you already
let's
told
do
me
it.
earlier today, 25K.
Yeah.
What's your strategy? How are
Already
the games?
25K.
Yeah.
Games have been good, man. I've been playing like these win 10Ks a little bit. Played one of them. Found him in cash, which I guess is kind of cool. Um, yeah, like Vegas has kind of been opening back up again. Like a lot of live poker stuff's been going on. Like a lot of these like lower stakes stuff, like 1100s and 1600s, like main events have kind of really just been like
Yeah.
going crazy. Like in November, like I kind of felt it too. Like so, like I won this 1100 in Vegas. It was like a 200K guaranteed, where first in the prize pool was 200K. Like it got like a million plus in the pool. Like it was just crazy. Like and now even more so now, like the Venetian's running a tournament today, like an
Oh,
1100
crazy.
multi-day. Like it's gonna get like probably like seven figures in the prize pool. Like it's kind of crazy, like how much everything's sort of happening and happening pretty quickly with Vegas opening back up again, and also with like WSOP kind of announcing the fall schedule. And I know that like the Wynn and the Venetian run like tournament series every summer. So like there's just going to be like nonstop stuff to going on with also the online events as well in July for the online bracelet series. And yeah, poker's been pretty crazy as of recent for sure.
Yeah. How are the games right now, especially at the 25Ks, 10Ks? Are there a lot of live recs, top recs, the known ones, or is it softer?
Yeah, so I think it's more just like people that are in the US. Like there's obviously a lot of great players in there too, and like there's a good amount of like recreationals that get in the mix as well. Like from what I've seen, like in the limited experience I've played playing these 10Ks, like I've been pretty surprised with like how good the player pool has been, and it was
How
something
good in
where
terms of how tough it is, or how good
how
in?
good in terms of like how like there's a lot of good players like that are playing, but there's also like a lot of like softer spots, which kind
Mhm.
of surprised me. Like seeing like the first time I played it like a 10K like a month ago at the Win, like it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, like who plays a 10K other than like people that are like really really solid, and then like you sort of just realize like most people are either studying their own way or doing things that are kind of a little bit
Mhm.
off book, so to speak, and that might just be like a precedent to like what's worked for them in the past of like some people take some lines that are like kind of crazy, and it's like I like look back at them and like I review some hands I played and like yeah, this just doesn't seem kind of this doesn't really seem right, but people have their own reads and their own reasons for doing some certain stuff. But I was definitely really happy with the turnout. It got like I think got like 85 entrants, which normally they get like 25 to 30. So this was kind of going on during like the Win Signature Series. So that was like they had a 1600 and they had a 3500 main event. So like they also had this 10K going on as well. So it seemed like there was a lot more people that were just in town for this whole tournament series that also fired the 10K as well.
Yeah. And how has it been going for you so far?
It's been good. I mean, in my limited experience of like playing live cash, like the first live tournament I've played in like seriously after doing some tournament study was in November of 2020. And I mean, it's been going really well. I somehow won a tournament for like 200 in November. I don't know how I did that. Like, it's crazy, like how like it's so delusional. Like when that happened, I was like, why don't I just win every tournament from now on? Like what's going on? But like it was a bad start, you know, because it's like you just expect to get that same result every time when it's obviously impossible. And like the more I played tournaments, the more I realized like it doesn't even make sense that I ended up finding a win. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's insane. Like
But how
I
was
don't.
it? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're good. Like it was just a really like surreal experience. Like just
Hmm.
kind of getting into tournaments for the first time because over the summer in 2020, I was mostly like a cash game player. Like still am. Like I played like 2.5 online on a Ignition and some like US sites. And I never really like understood the value in tournaments because I thought like they're super high variance and like you can't really win in them. And then like I was kind of introduced to tournaments from Chewy and started learning a little bit about tournaments and just sort of realized like that's completely not the case. And like if you just work really hard and you
Yeah.
study a bunch, like there's a lot of like there's a lot of like dead money in the pool. It's just a matter of like putting in volume and also like having the drive to learn every day and kind of implement what you learn in practice
Yeah.
and get it done. And it's obviously like it's no surprise to anyone that like the US player pool is a lot weaker than like the rest of the world's player pool just by default. So like it's tough to really understand like an ego check of like winning a bunch at the start and realizing like how bad everyone is, but then also realizing like the player pool that you're playing against.
Hmm.
Where it's like I know that like I still have so much to learn in tournaments. Like the more I study tournaments, the more I realize like I know nothing,
Hmm.
right? Like I know like literally nothing out of like the grand scheme of what there is to learn. And like that's only going to keep happening like the more you improve and which
Yeah.
kind of is like the it's like the you never really are gonna like reach like your best self, and like the more you continually get better, like every couple months, the more you realize like how bad you were in comparison like the months before. Where like I remember that happening like when I first started playing tournaments, like I found a sixth in the WSOP like 1K turbo, and then like I got second in an 100K, and then like I won a six max, and like all this stuff was kind of happening really early,
Hmm.
and like I kind of thought I knew what was going on a little bit, and like kind of learning some stuff, and like the more I just like look at more hands and play more tournaments and get in more spots, the more I just kind of find myself being very unsure and like unclear, and most times just wrong. Like in the
Yeah.
way I approach a spot, in the way I see like a range interaction spot or a bet sizing spot, and it's all these kind of things that I just kind of try to take from one tournament to the next and just sort of keep kind of playing, getting after it, and just playing more tournaments and learning more
Yeah.
stuff. And it's a lot of fun. Like it's just a lot of fun to study and learn and work with the people I'm working with. And I think it's really like helpful to have like a positive learning environment and
Oh yeah,
people that like
absolutely.
people like you trust
Hmm.
that and also like value their opinion and realize that they also like want what's best for you. Because I know a lot of times like even for myself, so, like sometimes like when you play a hand a certain way and like you think you know what's going on and then like you have someone tell you like nah, like that's just the wrong idea, and
Hmm.
like you just kind of have to sit there and like deal with it and sort of realize like you might actually be wrong is like a yeah, like I know like they're saying this and they're not saying it to hurt in any capacity, but they're saying it to help you get better, like because that's what friends do and like
Yeah.
that's what like study groups are meant for. But it's hard sometimes, like especially studying for this heads up challenge with Bill, like sometimes like because before I never really played much heads up before kind of studying and learning and getting into it. And I played a lot of spots where it's like, yeah, like I don't think this is the right bet sizing here. Like I don't think this is the right hand to check back with. I don't think this is anything like any sort of thing you can come up with in
Yeah.
just poker strategy as a whole. Like, and it's one of those things where it's hard to just be continually told like this just isn't right, like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and just sort of like accept like yeah, like they're saying it, but they're not saying it to be hurtful. They're saying it because they're your friends. They want to see you succeed. And it's something I kind of keep going back to because I make a lot of mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, I guess like yeah, you're right, but at the same time like I don't want you to be right because I want to be right.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like a conflict of understanding how much I know and how much I want to learn versus what what is theoretically true.
Hmm.
Because most of the times like those don't align, and that's why I'm still learning a bunch of stuff. Because if I knew theory already, I just know everything, but I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were having this big win, and we were talking about it, your ego check. Was there a little bit of a ego creeping in, telling you, "Oh, you win so early, maybe you're better than you expected," and you felt that voice in your head telling you, "We can start slacking," or was it for you? You were really on point. It's like, okay, I understand this is variance, and very early on, I still need to put a lot of hours because I have lots of students
Mhm.
which had a big score early on in their career, and it was the worst thing that could happen for them. How was it for you?
Yeah, so basically right after this like the tournament win happened, I just realized like how fun tournaments were, just in the sense of
Of course, when you
having
win them,
the
they're
like
always fun.
having the experience of like running deep in a tournament, like and not just like running deep, like obviously like winning the tournament, because like it's hard to sort of appreciate like the deep run when you like fizzle and get like 13th, right? Because you
Hmm.
always think to yourself like what might have been or like what could have happened if one thing went your way deeper in the tournament. But like then again, getting 13th in like a 1300 field tournament is crazy.
Yeah.
But it definitely for me was one of those things where I still knew that I knew nothing, and I just tried to like implement as much as I did know at the time in game, and just sort of like ran every hand I played by my friends and just got a response, and like most of them was positive. And it was one of those things where like I realized how the feeling was obviously unreal, like just in the moment, like wow, like just somehow ended up getting that done. But it also like it pushed me to work harder because I wanted to get that feeling again, and I knew that that wasn't going to be replicable with the knowledge that I had. You know, like I knew like based on like how the short amount of time I've played tournaments and the short amount of time that I've been learning poker as a whole, like I've only been playing poker for like 2 years professionally. Like there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And in order to like replicate that feeling multiple times over, like I just have to learn more stuff. Like it's not something where like I have it all figured out now. Like and it's definitely helped me like motivate me to improve and just kind of stay on the track of learning more and having like a really good support system
Yeah.
around me to kind of keep my head in check too, like be like
Hmm.
like like look like yeah, like not like this was an expected result, but this was a very justifiable outcome based on like how knowledgeable I am relative to the pool. And like with the little run good and like not really being in danger the entire tournament, just like always having chips, like
Hmm.
with a cash game background, like someone that has a lot of chips and they run deep in a tournament is going to be a problem. Like it's very possible to just like win the tournament when you just like come into like day two with like a hundred bigs. Like it's and like especially like these kind of live or like live tournaments where like they're pretty big fields and the blinds kind of go down like
Hmm.
relatively quickly. And then people make some mistakes with like push folds. People make some mistakes playing post flop as a whole. To where like if you just catch a little run good and just like win those pots like over and over again and like run pretty timely bluffs, like that's gonna kind of help you like succeed in a tournament. But it's not one of those things where I thought to myself like I knew what was going on because like my environment is a pretty unique one. Like just having like Nick, Shulman, and Chewy in my corner, just amazing poker players. Just I just know how much more I have to learn in order just to keep up with them. You know.
Yeah.
So like it's not one of those things where I had other friends playing the same stakes and kind of like, I guess, having my breakout before them, but more of like, yeah, like you got some pretty big shoes to fill here. Like you just
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
keep working on your stuff and like you gotta keep getting after it because that's what they're doing every day, and I just want to keep up with them. So it's a lot of doing it for myself in order to improve and be as good as I can because obviously if I stopped studying, I would not be as good as I possibly could be. And I really enjoy the feeling of like trying to chase like the best version of myself in poker that I can find.
Yeah.
And just studying a lot helps with that. Playing a bunch helps with that. Like I know like literally when I won that tournament, I played the 1600 the next week. Like I didn't really take any days off to like go do other things because all I really do in my life is just sit in my room and play poker and talk poker with friends and sometimes go out to dinner and like have a good like balance of like friends and life
And
stuff.
talk poker while dinner.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like talking about hands that I played like from 3 months ago, just at that dinner. But yeah, like that's kind of just like what I enjoy out of my life at the moment. And I'm
Hmm.
sure that'll change, but like I'm sure when you were like 21 and like super hot like fired up and like hungry for poker, like you were just kind of playing everything on every day. Like there was just no breaks.
Yeah.
And like it's just kind of like what it is for me right now. Like I just really enjoy the game and like really enjoy the process of studying and learning and getting better. And it's helped out. It's helped me kind of get to this far, especially with a lot of like run good for sure, and just knowing the right people and getting really lucky with the connections I've made,
Yeah.
and kind of just trying to make the most of it.
That's great,
Like
man.
having the opportunity, and then also like understanding how much of an opportunity it is to be able to take full advantage of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just the way I've approached learning poker ever since I started working with Nick and Andrew about 9 months ago.
Hmm.
Like every day, it's just running solves and talking about poker and thinking about like how you would practically play a spot. Like it's just been like that every day, and it's I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's like it's an amazing experience.
So I would consider you probably the most enthusiastic poker player right now on Earth.
I'm hyped, man.
What
I love
what
this game.
what what excites you about poker so much?
I think it's well for me, like I left school 2 years like almost 2 years ago. I dropped out of school. I went to
Mm-hmm.
Florida State for 2 years. I dropped out of school when I was playing micros on stake with a friend of mine. So like I was in college, like had no money.
Mm-hmm.
Um Still kind of have no money, but either way. But like so I was in school and I was playing micros just when I had class, they'd be like, nah, like I'm not going to class. I'm gonna play micros. Or like when I would go to class for like attendance points, I would just like six table 2 cent, 4 cent on global poker. Like I would just play micro stakes. And from there, like I just realized that poker is something I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that when I gave up school, like I knew what I was giving up in the sense of like security and like a job somewhere and things of that nature. Where I was like, if I'm gonna give up school, I better have a really good reason for it,
Yeah.
right? And like poker was that reason. So like when I started realizing that poker was the one thing that like I chose to want to excel at, I felt like I owed it to myself to make the most of it, right? Like every day, like even when I left school for the first 6 months, like I was playing micro stakes. Like I moved up to like 20 an hour, so I was playing 10 cent, 20 cent, and just like played six tables for like 8 hours a day, every day. And like I definitely had my depressive spots of like not wanting to leave my room and just grinding a bunch and just sort of just trying to figure out poker with my friend that was kind of coaching me at the time. And it was just something that I just knew that if I was going to give up school, like I had to put everything into it. Like I just had it. I wasn't gonna give myself an excuse like to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember when I first called my mom when I was in college, I'm like, hey, like I don't think I can go back to school. And she's like, nah, like fuck that. Like you're staying at school. I was like, okay. And then like 2 weeks later, like more just more energy of like not wanting to go back came up. And I was like, mom, I'm not going to school. And she's like, how about you just find some like a degree that like works with poker? And I'm like, mom, that's not how poker works. Like there's like getting a stats degree is like not really going to help very much with poker because
Yeah.
just like the classic like parental like please just stay in school, find something,
Mm.
and then
Be
poker will
safe.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, I was like, mom, I know what you're going to say, but I promise you when I come home from break, I am not returning to school. And she was like, okay. And she just sort of like realized how much I cared about it, gave me like 6 months to kind of stay at the house and sort of figure things out. So she was very like extremely supportive of me when I first sort of took the leap for it, like when I was out of school. And in that 6 month period, she just gave me time to sort of do my own thing and like not worry about like paying rent or like getting a job somewhere if I needed to. So I just grinded micros every day and like just made the most of the short time that I had, because obviously 6 months isn't very much in any sort of scope. But I knew like rent was going to be starting to become real, and I had to either figure it out or not. And I just put in so much volume. I probably played over like a million hands in 2019 was like the first, or 2020 was like the first year that 2019 was the first year I left school. Like I just, I probably played over a million hands that year, just like playing micro stakes. It's untracked just because on global, like you can't download your hand histories.
Okay.
But I played like 8 hours a day, every day, just getting out. Like I have, it's funny, I actually have YouTube videos of me like recording sessions I played at 20 and L, and
Okay.
sometimes I'll go back and look at them and I'll be like, oh my God, like what was I doing? But like I have some really good YouTube videos. They're like 3 hours, 4 hours long sometimes. And like
Yeah.
what I would do is like I would send them to my coach at the time and be like, hey, by the way, like I have this video of me recorded as like a private link because I just like didn't want it anywhere. But here's the link. Feel free to watch it and let me know what you think about some spots. And I just sort of just had like I just sort of did that every day for a long time. And I just looked
Oh,
back at
that's
it
great. Yeah.
and just like I still have some, like I still have some of these hands. Like it's pretty crazy looking back, but like it hasn't been that long, but it feels like forever. Like it feels like I played poker for such a long time,
Yeah.
just because like every single day I'm just like studying or playing or like or thinking about like there's not a moment that goes by where I'm not thinking about the game or thinking about what I might do today, in the sense of like maybe I will play a tournament, maybe I'll study, maybe I'll play some cash games, like maybe I'll see what's going on heads up tables and like all this kind of stuff, to where like something like there's always something going on. It's just a matter of like figuring out what it is I want to do and figuring out like which is going to be the most fun to me, but like also still make dollars.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like I might not play like a live MTT, which would be like a pretty good value tournament, in order to like play six max cash online, because that's something that I really want to do. Like I just feel like I'm in a mood to play some six max cash. So I'll just do that, because I know that end of the day, like I'm just trying to have as much fun as possible in poker, and just sort of following what it feels like I want to do is going to give me that, like going to give me results, because obviously I feel like I'm in the headspace for it.
Yeah.
And also I feel like I'm not pushing myself, because I know that I also put in enough volume as it is. Like some days like I might take a break and just not play and be like, okay, like I just want to review some hands that I've played, because I know that I can afford to take a break, because I put in so much time. Like it's not something where I'm just gonna take a month off and just like feel like I don't want to play anymore, or take an extended break for a reason because I don't want to play. Like I
Yeah.
put in enough volume throughout like the year to just I play a lot. Like I put in enough volume, and I finally come to terms with that. And it was something that I couldn't really do earlier in my like micro stakes grind. Like I just always felt like I had to play, and like I always felt like I had to grind more and put in volume. And if I didn't put in volume, I wasn't going to succeed at poker. But like the more I sort of look at poker now as a holistic approach, like I have a lot more time on my hands now than I did then, because obviously if you're playing 20 and L, winning five buy-ins like $100, like if you start moving up to higher stakes, and you play like 5-10 and you win one buy-in, that's winning so many more buy-ins than when you're playing 10 cent, 20 cent. And like
Yeah.
it was crazy to me. Like I just remember like talking to my friend that was coaching me at the time, who was playing 10-20. Like I was like, man, I can't wait till I play 10-20. Like I can't wait till I have like four-figure swings, like four-figure days, like winning and losing five figures even on some good days. And he was like, yeah, like I believe in you, man. Just put in the time. Like you'll be okay. And like it's hard to really realize it in the moment, because like I was like, what do you mean? Like that's not how this works, right? Just because like you think it's gonna happen doesn't mean it's actually going to.
Yeah.
But really just like putting like one foot in front of the other, and just like putting in a bunch of volume and being in like a positive supportive environment, and just like having people that believe in you and finding the right connections, like is something that was really helpful to me. And I think, especially for like when I first met Joey, like he could just kind of tell how much I really cared about poker and just cared about like playing the game and like how much enthusiasm I had for it. And like it kind of just grows more the more opportunities I have, because like it's kind of like I'm having more opportunities to be able to be my best self, right? Like
Yeah.
playing in higher stakes tournaments, playing in higher stakes cash games in some capacity, like playing against better people and challenging myself. But like also having like the people in your corner that are like, yeah, like you're great. Just keep putting in volume, and fully having like 100% trust in me is something that like I never had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like when I was in school, like didn't have that many friends, like didn't really I was playing video games all day, like I didn't really know what I was doing. Like I was just playing COD for like 8 hours a day after I got home from school, just kind of like not really figuring things out and just having like my friends that I play video games with. But now like instead of video games, it's just like it feels like a video game, but it's not. Like poker's
Hmm.
it has that video game feel of like you play a lot and then like you move up a level, and then like
Yeah.
you just kind of keep moving up a level, like especially for cash games, that's the kind of way it felt for me, like going from like 10 cent, 20 cent to like 25 cent, 50 cent to
Yeah.
50 cent dollar, and like dollar, $2, 2.5, and then 5.10. Like every sort of like stake is like a new level. So it's like, oh, like achievement, like level unlocked, like new
Yeah.
level, like you play higher stakes. And sometimes like you just get like wrecked over and over again. Like I think one of like the most memorable moments for me just in my career, so to speak, it's so weird to say because it's only been like 2 years. But
Yeah.
like when I was playing 50 and L one day, and I was like playing a mix between 50 and 100 and L. And this was like the first time I was kind of shot taking a little bit, and I lost like $1,000 in like 30 minutes. Like I just like had my first stretch of like 4-figure run bad, and I remember like I kind of just like shut down. Like I was like I just didn't want to play for like that period of time. Like my person I was coaching was like, look, just take a break, like take a couple days,
Who
just
is your coach? Who is it?
so
Personal
my
coach?
a personal his name's Steven. He plays on Global sometimes.
Is it
He
like
was
a
like
poker coach? Person? It's like a fitness
Yeah,
coach?
just yeah, yeah,
Ah, it's a
poker
Ah,
coach. Yeah.
okay.
So he was backing me at the time. A really good friend of mine, still one of my best friends now. And he basically was like, "Look, just take a break." And then like he was coming down to Florida anyways, so we were gonna like go play live poker. And this was like when I was playing like live 1-2 and 2-5, just sort of getting a little bit into those streets and just playing some live poker. And he was like, "Look, like just take a couple days off." And I was like, "Okay." But I literally remember feeling for like 2 days, like I just did not want to play poker. I just did not want to deal with it. I didn't even know what happened. Like I just got wrecked. And
Mm.
it was just something where I never experienced that before. And then like 2 days later, I was like, nah, fuck that. Like I'm getting back and I'm playing more. Like I need to get back after it. Like I need to redeem myself kind of. And I felt
Yeah.
really good, and I ended up winning. Like I ended up like kind of feeling good about myself again. Like I remember like the despair that I felt then, just like getting crushed for like 45 minutes, like losing more money than like I've made in like that month.
Yeah, it's
Just
hard.
like, and it was a really hard experience, especially like when I was like playing micro stakes before that, and like winning and losing like $100 used to be a lot. So like losing like 10x that was
Yeah.
like crazy. It was like what did I just do? Like am I the worst? What just happened?
Should have
Like I
listened
had
to my
no.
mom.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like I guess I'm just going back to school. Like I'm just done. Like I'm out. But yeah, it was really like it was a good experience because like it just kind of helped me realize like how variance works sometimes, and experiencing it at a higher stake and sort of realizing like yeah, like when you play higher stakes, you're gonna lose more dollars, and it's something you're
Yeah.
gonna have to get used to if you want to do this
Yeah.
professionally.
Yeah.
Like
Um, mm.
yeah,
You're very early on. I mean, it sounds like as if you have been around for decades in
I
poker.
know it sounds. I
It's
know it sounds
insane.
like I've been around
But
forever.
yeah, you're very early on your journey. Is there something that you wish you would have known before you started your journey as poker player that you, yeah, not, I don't
I
want to say
think
regret, but just something. Oh
no, of
yeah,
course. Something that I think honestly like learn. I feel like learning tournaments sort of like earlier, like is a decent idea. Like I just do. Like I think it's a good idea to
Mm-hmm.
like have the skill set of being able to play cash games and being able to play tournaments.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I think just like understanding that earlier could have maybe led to like more fun in some ways. Because I know for some people like tournaments are kind of like not fun and like
Mm.
boring or like awful and like unbeatable. Like I know like that feeling, but like it's also one of those things where like adding tournaments to my life now has been a lot of fun. Like it's a nice break of from doing something that I did for 2 years straight, like for thousands of hours of just playing cash games where it's like, okay, like I'm gonna take Sundays off and I'm gonna play tournaments on Sundays. Or like, oh, like there's a good tournament that I want to play and I don't really want to play cash games. I've been playing cash games for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna play this tournament today. And just sort of having the skill set. And if you play cash games, like you have a decent background to kind of like
Yeah. For
back
sure.
tournaments, just like understanding some post flop things, obviously depending on like stake level and just overall ability. But I think that jumping from tournaments with having a cash game background is a lot easier than
Mm-hmm.
going from tournaments to playing cash games.
Yeah.
Because like you just play deeper spots post flop, like you deal with bigger SPRs, you deal with all that kind of stuff. But like that's the way I used to think when I first started playing tournaments. But like getting more into the nuance of like how it becomes like how you become truly great at tournaments and like understanding 20 big blinds versus 25 and like 20 big blinds versus 30 and 35. Like all these like lower SPR spots are very different from different ranges and all that kind of stuff. Like there's just so much more to learn in tournaments that it's something that like excites me but scares me at the same time because like
Yeah.
you can go for so many years like learning so much about a format and still realize like you don't really know anything. Like I know what I know, which is like not very much, but in relation to what other people know is just maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
in the sense of like putting in work, like running sims and looking at spots. And end of the day, like results are going to kind of prove that like if someone wins a bunch at like consistently, like there's probably a reason for it. Like they're probably doing something right, but like who knows like how much they actually really know about a certain thing. And
Yeah.
it's something that like I go back and forth on every day is like realizing like how fun learning is, but also realizing you know nothing. But it's kind of fun. Like I think it's pretty fun to like just sort of learn new things every day. But it's also not really fun when like you kind of get crushed on a Sunday and you're looking back and like you look back at like hands and you're like, I guess this is just like bad. And then like you just like look over like a bunch of hands in a row and they're all just bad. It's like, well, you tried, like so like and that's kind of like what I enjoy about poker is like every day is kind of just a new day. Like every Sunday like there's new opportunity. Like it's not like this like the Sunday from before affects the next Sunday,
Yeah.
right? Like if I play a tournament on this Sunday, the result of that tournament isn't going to be in the tournament. Like if it's a 215, like playing the same 215 the next week, it's a different tournament. Like it's a different game. You're playing a different field with different people and all that kind of stuff. But it's just so much opportunity to really enjoy poker, and like I just would have given myself more breaks
Yeah.
if I look back at it because now I sort of realize how much volume I put in and realizing that it's okay to take breaks.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first started, I just didn't. I just played so much and like it's weird because like I kind of took it as like a badge of honor of like I don't take breaks. I play every day. I play for like 8 hours a day, and like people see it as like a grind or like work ethic, but it might be like destructive, right? Like if you play too much, like it could be really destructive because
Yeah.
you just need time off. Like you need time to reflect on things and just accept that sometimes like life's not all about poker,
Yeah.
which I'm
Yeah.
which I'm slowly realizing, but not very much, because like I say this, but like I'm just like in the streets every day. Just-
Mm.
but it's something I'm coming to terms with a little bit, but it's definitely just been so much fun and just an unreal experience to be able to kind of have
Yeah.
the journey that I've had so far.
It's very interesting because I feel like people still underestimate or don't even understand that poker or statistics in general, statistical likelihoods don't have a memory, because you brought it up that today is a Sunday, next week is I'm gonna give it another try, And I feel
Yeah.
like people are so entitled when they're in downswing. Well, I'm on downswing. It's supposed to end soon.
Right,
No,
like
it's
it's been
not.
5 Sundays in a row. Where's my win? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is where variance can be very brutal when you have the wrong expectation when it goes down, 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 and then you have a few winning session. You kind of like recover a little bit. You're getting a little teased just the next session to get crushed again. This is where I think
right,
people start growing this false expectation, this entitlement. Ah, now I'm going to be running better. Now I'm going to be winning all back, and then boom,
right.
and they've been putting in so much effort, and this could be just switched with a different expectation. It seems that
Right.
you have a good understanding. Where is it something that came for you very natural, or did you learn it? Someone taught you that, or where did you grow that understanding of variance?
Yeah, so I think I learned that from cash games in the sense of like I knew that
But
tournaments.
before cash games, so you learned it during gaming, during playing, that you got
Yeah,
familiar with the
like
variance. Okay.
I learned like with the idea of variance, like I've been on downswings in cash, of course, but I understand that in tournaments, it's it can be very brutal. Like sometimes you just go on multiple buy-in downswings. And like I've been fortunate enough now to not have gone through like a big MTT downswing, but I also play cash as well to where it's like I play a format I know that I'm beating at a decent rate that if I wanted to put in volume and like make up for some tournament losses that are expected, I can just put in volume in cash games and do pretty well. And
Yeah.
obviously, like if that goes bad too, then like it would just be a whole like reconstructive look at my game. And sometimes like if you're just like going through stretches of run bad, like you just sort of have to accept it. And the way I accept it is I just like study more and try to improve because the only thing I can really focus on is myself.
Yeah.
I can focus on my volume. I can focus on like how I'm feeling before I put in a session. Not in the sense like obviously if you feel like bad about playing, you're probably like not going to enjoy it. And like that's something that I've gotten a lot better at as of this part of my journey versus earlier in like my micro stakes grind, so to speak. Like I remember like having days where, like I just felt miserable, but like I still wanted to play. And then like I lost money and I was like, why? Why? And like you think about it, it's like, well, you clearly didn't seem like you wanted to play today, and you
Mm.
decided to put in volume at 6 tables of 20 and L, and you lose like 4 buy-ins in 30 minutes. And like I look at myself like, why did I even log on?
Yeah.
And like you do that enough times, and you start to realize like, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't play when I'm angry. Like maybe I should just take a break. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I've realized now, and just sort of understanding that in poker, like I remember like my first quote unquote downswing was like I played I think 3 months at like 200 and L, and I played like 100,000 hands, and I broke even for 100,000 hands, and I won like three big blinds per 100 adjusted. So like in theory I won a bunch of dollars, but I didn't have anything to show for it besides
Hmm.
a graph that besides like an all in adjusted graph, and I was like this is brutal. Like, what's going on here? But I sort of realized like the graph showed that I was winning three big blinds per 100,000 hands, and just sort of realized that that can happen. Like that can just
Yeah.
happen, and it sucks. But like crying about it's not really gonna help very much, right? Like me, like the way I sort of saw it before versus like a little bit more like an educated way I see it now. Like before I was like, yeah, I don't really care. I'm just gonna grind some more. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, yeah, like I'll play more, but I'll also take time to reflect, take some days off if I need to, and
Hmm.
sort of just put in volume when I feel really comfortable playing,
Yeah.
and then operate through that lens versus the, yeah, like I don't care about downswings. I'm just gonna grind through them. They don't mean anything to me because it's not
Hmm.
true. Like I'm a human. Like they mean a lot, and
Yeah.
sometimes like it's really frustrating when you feel like you're playing the best poker of your life, and you just get like wrecked.
Yeah.
It's kind of happened recently to me at 5K heads up. Like I've been playing some 25-50 heads up to kind of prepare for this heads up challenge that I have, and had like a 3 day sample of just like losing like 13 buy-ins, and every hand was like effectively like me not winning in 3 and 4 bet pots. And like for my own sanity, even though I knew that the line was played well on my end, I still got in the lab, ran sims on the spot, looked back at them, tried to learn something, and just realized like, yeah, it sucks and it feels brutal, like just losing like half of 100K just playing 5K, but like that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's hard to like, it's not easy to just be like, yeah, like standard variance, I guess I'm just gonna play more. Because like there is a certain level where like stakes matter. Like losing a lot of money, like it's still hard.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of about the mindset that you have going into the future. Because it's not like I'm gonna get the 10 buy-ins back by crying about it.
Hmm.
It's more of just like putting in putting in volume, understanding some things, maybe playing lower and like playing some other people, like building some confidence if confidence is an issue. But like end of the day, it's just sort of like understanding that I'm playing a very volatile game to where some days you just sit down and you lose.
Yeah.
Like some days there's no hope for you in heads up no limit. Like some days like you just sit there and you get good hands and they keep getting better hands, or like you keep having a bluff and they have like a snap call, bluff catch, or whatever, and that's just the way of the game. And
Mm.
if I don't understand that, I shouldn't be playing it in the first place.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's not
absolutely.
easy. Like it's not easy. I'm not trying to sit here like I know all the answers because I don't. But it's definitely been one of those things where like I've had a lot of like complaining recently. I've just been like complaining a lot. Like Chew was telling me he's like you've been on that complain grind a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, you know what can I do? But like it's nice to have people that also tell you when you're bitching about it. It's like he's like,
Yeah.
look, like you're bitching, like this is what you signed up for, like stop.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
hard, like it sucks. But yeah, I mean it's been a lot of fun experiencing it, and it's been one of those like really sort of transformative sort of approaches to how I see poker holistically, is just taking a step back sometimes and just
Yeah.
sort of understanding that
Absolutely.
some day is not your day, and that's okay. And like truly accepting that, because like some days like it's just like you can think to yourself, yeah, but I could have won this tournament, or like yeah, like if I won this flip, like everything would have been different. But like you didn't, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And sort of coming with that approach versus coming with the approach that like I deserve something, like I deserve these buy-ins back from the person I'm playing because he's not beating me for 500 big blinds per per 100 is just the wrong approach. Because sometimes like looking like going through stretches, like I think what I did, like which kind of helped a lot, was looked at my overall graph that I had recorded hands from when I did have my graph. Because
Hmm.
on WSOP you can't really get hands either, so you just kind of assume. But when I was playing on like when I was like you can just like remember hands you played. It's like okay, like here's a 4-bet pot. I got good hand. They had better hand. Like you lose. But like when I look back at my overall graph of playing micro stakes and playing like mid stakes and the stuff that I do have recorded, and just kind of seeing like sometimes in the graph like there's spikes that go way up, and sometimes in the graph there's spikes that go way down.
Mm.
End of the day, like graph still trends upwards, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and all you got to do is just sort of put in the grind, but responsibly.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the crazy thing about heads up, is like you can only assume if you have a win rate against someone,
Mm.
unless like like you know what I mean? Like you don't really know how much you're beating somebody for.
Yeah.
Like you don't know that you're beating, like you might be beating someone for like 10 big blinds, but might be running at -5, and you might think that like you're actually like losing versus someone over a sample. But like you might actually be winning, and all you can really do is like assume based on the way you think about your skill and the way you think about theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really clouded sometimes, right? Because like someone makes a bluff catch that you might not think is approved or good, but they might have their reasons for it, and you just kind of
Mm.
have to realize like, okay, like you have to have some respect for your opponent in that regard. Like
Yeah.
you just have to sort of give them more credit than what is due sometimes, because sometimes it's so easy to see like, oh, this guy's like a shitty reg, like he made a bluff catch that's awful, like there's no way this is a good bluff catch.
Mm.
But like sometimes when like I've looked at node locks, I mean obviously you have too, like when you like touch the frequencies even a little bit, like if someone
Yeah.
starts bluffing a little bit more, you just start calling with like these hands that seem unreal to call with. But if you're operating under an assumption that someone's doing something that's a little bit off base, one way or the other, they're going off their reads, and sometimes you make bluff catches that you go off your read that you know
Mm.
are bad, but do them on purpose. But from like an outsider perspective, look like they're just massively losing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've also just had to work on playing heads up, like playing against a bunch of different people, preparing for this match, was just understanding that people are having their own sort of assumptions and people are having their own sort of ideas as to how the spots work, and just trying to think about how I can improve versus their response.
Yeah.
Because I can't control their response. I can only control my frequencies and like my lines that I take.
Yeah. No,
So that's kind
absolutely.
of what I need to be focused on more than trying to get these buy-ins back by like crying about it.
You were talking a little bit. I also want to talk a little bit about the challenge, but you
hmm
mentioned for you poker is a very holistic approach.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you? Like, what do you do for everyone that is listening? Holistic approaches. So you try to take care of yourself, right, so to speak, to try to be in a
Yeah.
good mental and physical state. So what is it that you exactly do in order to be in a good holistic state for playing poker?
Yeah. So for me, the holistic approach sort of looks like whatever I deem to find fun, yet still have some value. And like sometimes that means like taking a Sunday off to play cash, even though Sunday's a good tournament day. Or like sometimes like playing tournaments on a Tuesday because Tuesdays still have some value. Like every day is going to have some value somewhere. It's just a matter of picking and choosing what I think is going to keep me the most mentally sane. Because like some days like you lose a lot when you play cash and you just like don't want to play cash even though there's like a good game running. And then you just want to take a day off and play tournaments and work on that side of things. And also like sometimes more recently now, let alone the past, I've been taking some breaks for like a little bit, like taking a day off here and there is like something that I could never do before. Like I just could not do it. I just thought like it was disrespectful to myself.
Mm,
But I'm more sort of understanding the idea that taking a break is actually just necessary,
yeah.
and realizing that it's the other way around, where like if you don't take a break, you're actually just hurting yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not something that really registered with me because I was always in like super grind mode and really trying to put in so many hours and not give myself a reason to be in a downswing, so to speak. Like I remember when I was like on my little downswing at 200 and L, like I played so much. Like I played every day. I was like, I'm not gonna stay in the downswing. But like sometimes that's not how it works. And like maybe you actually like your win rate increases by taking a couple of days off and just sort of just like fully accepting it and being like, okay, like
Mm,
going on a bad stretch right now. Been pretty tough. Gonna take a few days off, review some hands maybe, like just study if that's something that that you feel like is important. But like sometimes like you just need like a full break.
yeah.
And that's okay. Like it's not like you're quitting. Like it's not like when I take a break, I'm quitting poker, right? Like it's not when I take a break, I'm not playing anymore. It's just you're not playing for a little
Yeah.
bit for your own benefit. Like breaks are good for what they're used for, not just because you're not playing. Like
Yeah.
having a break is just necessary,
Yeah.
and it's not something that I had before. Just
I think
definitely didn't.
I think in general it's not even if you quit poker, it's not failing because you might jump into a different endeavor and maybe it's not meant to be. But I think
Yeah.
just giving up on your dreams and throwing everything overboard. I mean, whatever you do is just some sort of it just means to get to your outcome, the desired outcome, right? Can
hmm
be through playing poker, it could be through doing a business or getting into some sort of job or whatever it is, right? So some people think like, oh, if I quit poker, I fail. No, you can still then go with the same
Right.
fire, passion into something else. I have a couple of friends. One of my best friends, he's very successful, as a very successful lawyer. He used to play poker. He had an insane downswing for many, many years.
Oh
I was
wow.
I was looking at this graph, like cash game. We were playing together. He was actually coaching me in cash games a lot back then,
Yeah.
and also in post off for sitting girls. And I was watching him. He was playing fantastic, and his EV was going up, his adjusted graph. But
Yeah.
he just kept playing. He was still making decent money with the rake back and being slightly up, but it was so much on
Right.
EV. And after a couple of years, of course, it's very depressing.
It's crazy, yeah. Like
Yeah,
just seeing that you like seeing that like you're quote unquote entitled to like six figures in EV and you have like 10K and you're like what?
yeah,
You're like what? Like
yeah,
I'm supposed to be rich. What's going on?
yeah,
Yeah, like, and I think that's what I mean is like when I see poker, like, and I see what I want from my perspective is I know that poker for me is like I don't want to quit poker. Like when I take a break, like I know that I'm not gonna quit because poker is something that I'm really passionate about. So like if I were to take a break from poker, it would hopefully be like indefinitely. Like it would hopefully be for something that I was just as passionate about, if not more, than
Mm.
I was for poker at the time.
Yeah.
Like who knows? Maybe in a couple years, like I don't know what I do with poker, right? And I had this same sort of approach when I first started.
Yeah.
Like people told me, "Oh, like you're playing right now, like you're playing 1-2 live, and like you're winning money at 1-2 live," which is like decent money. Like, and it's something I forget, like playing higher stakes, like realizing like you can make a decent living playing like live 2-5. Like you just can. Like that's, but it's like you're playing this right now. Like, what if you want to stop playing? And like I will tell them, I'm like, look, I don't have the answer to that for you. I don't. But right now, I really, really love poker, and that's what I'm going to stick with until something changes.
Yeah.
And that's the exact same approach I have now. And I feel like I enjoy poker even more now than I did then because like I've just had so many opportunities and have met so many great friends that I've had and so many new people and just really enjoying the process of getting better and being the best version of myself along with my friends that also have the same goals. Like I have friends
Yeah.
that also want to be the best that they can be, which in turn kind of everyone's sort of like going the same way. And I wouldn't give it up for anything. Like I just love poker right now and it's something I really care about. And it's the same way I felt 2 years ago when I first started playing micros and had like the smaller circle of people I was talking to. And I think that's why like I really enjoy doing like social media stuff, like being everywhere on Twitter, like tweeting a bunch of just like random stuff and memes. Like it's just something that like I enjoy. Like I enjoy just like the culture of poker. Like I enjoy the people in it. Like I just want to be like a positive attitude towards the game that's given me everything.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoy sort of interacting with people in the poker community and like the support I've gotten as of recent has been like insanely positive and like I can't thank it
Mm.
enough. Like there's just it's just crazy. Like I always had this feeling that I was gonna like do something pretty big in poker when I first started getting into it because I knew like every day like especially when I was playing micros like I would just watch Joey's podcast and just like listen to the best players in the world at the time like you would talk to and like they all just kind of said the same thing like just grind really hard uh just like stay focused, put in a bunch of work, and play a lot. And that's kind of the approach I took when I first started. And it's not really a secret, but people think like it's like oh like I get so many messages of like oh like how did you improve in stakes? Like how did you do this, that, and the other? And I'm like I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. I played a lot and I had a really good support system, and that's kind of what helped me. And like I just and I think that's it's hard to find sometimes. Like it is. It's hard to find a good support system. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to find people that really care about you and it's hard to find people that are also in the same place that also like don't feel jealous of like your successes. You know, like it's it's hard. It's not something that's easy to do, but I got really lucky just sort of making a connection with Joey just from like doing timestamps for him for free, like providing value to him because he provided a lot of value to me. And that's kind of how he and I became friends. Was like I was like, look, like I really love the podcast. I would like do timestamps for him, and I just sort of like messaged him a bunch on social media and was like, hey, like I promise you, like I'm gonna be really good at this game. Like I'm gonna I swear. And like it's funny, like I have the message that I sent Joey like my first DM I ever sent to him, and like I'll probably post it like sometime before the challenge because like it's like it's a pretty wholesome message. You know, like I'm all about the wholesome content. But yeah, like it was just one of those things where he sort of realized how much I really cared, and then like we just sort of kind of have the same energy, just like super hype energy, just like running around. So it was just really lucky for me to find someone that I just that really want what's best for me, and it's not easy to find, and that's something I'm really grateful for, and like my like the way I see it, like my job to myself is to be the best version of myself and make the most of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't have enough time in the day to try to like find that for others, if that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
it's too hard. Like it's too difficult to like put what I'm doing on hold to like say like so what I did do a few months ago, and it's been kind of pretty active, is I created a Discord server, and I was like, hey, like if you guys don't have any friends in poker, like feel free to join my server and find some friends. Like what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna use my platform and make a server, and I still have the server, and people have messaged me like I've made a lot of good friends from the server. I'm like, great. Like that's the intention of the server. It's like not really for me so much as it is for other people to kind of have the ability to create friendships and meet people in poker that are give them some form of what I had and like
Yeah.
some sort of way of giving back to where I can help as much people as possible. And at the end of the day, like if they want to find new people, there's like 1,500 people in the server. Like if you want to find a friend and you really care, you're gonna do that. Like it's on you at that point. Like I've given a tool to help you do that, and now if you want to find it, there it's there. Like go be free. You know like
Yeah, there's a lot of
like
options. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
were.
what was
Hmm?
it? What was it for you in poker? Like when, like, I like when you found your support system and all that.
At the beginning, I certainly was rather lucky because I was introduced through friends who also played very professional. So I or very early on got to understand how important it is to have people that support you. And then once I was in my downswings, people lifting me up, and I was like, oh, actually, that's pretty good. And I saw poker players around me that really, really struggled in downswings and gave up and quit. And I think I would have quit at some point if I wouldn't have had my friends around me. So which I'm very grateful
Yeah,
for. You were talking about breaks, man, and it's probably a question that I receive a lot. I mean, you were just sharing the way how important breaks are for you. Do you have like a rule say okay, at least take a day off, or you just go with the flow depending on how many days you need? Because I feel like people are looking for this magic pill answer. They ask me, Ben, I'm not feeling well, should I take a break, for how long? I was like, dude, I have no idea. I cannot look into your mind. Like
right,
if I think if you have to ask this question, do I need a break, you need a break, right? This is
right. The
already,
answer, the answer is just yes. Just like take a
yeah.
day off, see what happens. You
See,
know.
exactly. Maybe if you need a second day, then take a second day off.
Right,
Um, because if you would feel good, confident, you would play. So take a day off, study, review some hands. And also, some players just really need a day of binge watching Netflix. Some people need a day out in
right,
nature. Some people need a day with friends. Man, just try out different things. Like, there's
right,
nobody really that can answer this for you. I literally I can't answer the question. Maybe I'm too dumb. Maybe
right.
I'm too inexperienced. Maybe you can help them. But how do you approach it? Like, how do you said already studying, or do you also just go with the flow, go with the energy? Like,
Like
how do you do it?
sometimes I do nothing. Like sometimes I just do nothing, and I accept that like I do nothing. Like I'll
Yeah.
watch maybe some poker content or something like a high stakes poker, like a poker after dark or something that's like still poker, but nothing to where like I'm actively trying to learn because like
Mm.
sometimes you just need to take some days off. Like and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
sometimes just don't like the only person that really has the answer to that in the sense of like what you should do is like yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you feel good enough to play. Like that. I feel it. Like I feel when I want to play, and I feel when I don't. Like there are some days I'm sure like you've woken up, you're like, yeah, like I don't really feel like playing today.
Yeah.
Like you just don't,
Yeah.
and like that's like that's okay. Like you like the only person you have to answer to is yourself, and when you yourself says, I don't want to play today, like what else do you need? And sometimes like it'll happen again like another day like oh like I don't want to play today like you just know when you're gonna get the fire back. And for me like I've always just gotten the fire back to play more because I can only take so many days of like not learning something new you know and for some people it's different. Like some people like they're not in like a great spot where it's like you're in infinite in makeup or something and like there's nothing that you can win to like get out of makeup. There's not a tournament you can just like think to like get out of makeup. But like sometimes like it's just better to like take some days off and like just realize like okay like you just have to grind. And I think something like I can attest to like personally is when I first started playing like on stake with Nick and Chewy for a bunch of stuff. Like now over the summer I played some high stakes live games and I effectively like was playing 2-5 on ignition before playing like upstairs Bellagio 20, 40, 80 160 plus. Like, and these games are really good games, but they were swings that I definitely was not seemingly ready for because I played 2-5. Like my biggest downswing was like 10K, and like I just instantly lost like 60K in 3 days, just out of nowhere, just like in really good spots, and like I just ran bad. Like my bluffs got called in spots, and when I had good hands, they didn't hold or any of it. Like it all happened so quick,
Yeah.
and I literally thought like I was like instantly like 60K in makeup, and like they were like, okay, like it's a good idea to like not play these games anymore. Just don't do that. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. Like I know I'm gonna like grind and get out of it. So I basically like got out of makeup the first time by just like playing tournaments with like an ABI of like 215. And I genuinely thought like I was gonna be in makeup for like a year. I was like 60K in makeup, didn't really know what I was gonna do, and just sort of accepted. I was like, okay, like I'm in a spot in my life where I can afford that, where like I didn't have very many bills. Like I didn't have very many bills to deal with being out here in Vegas. I just had like rent and like food, which was fine. And I just knew that I was gonna grind. And I genuinely thought I was gonna be in makeup for a year. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of makeup. Like this doesn't make any sense. Like, and especially like when you're on stake and like just the way my stake works, like I can basically like do things effective to like what my bankroll is. So obviously when you have less of a bankroll, you don't get to play as big of things. So you just have to kind of grind out of it. And I don't know. I just like played 215s and just like won a bunch of tournaments, like really pretty timely. Just won tournaments and got out of makeup in like 40 days. And it was just something where I was like, I literally thought that this was gonna be something that existed forever,
Mm.
and and I thought that like I had to play high stakes to get out of it, or I had to like go back and like eat my L for just a year, but I just kind of played and just sort of stuck with it and just sort of realized that okay, like this happened, it existed. All I can do is make the most of the opportunity that I still have and just played a bunch and then got out of makeup pretty quick and I was like, "Oh wow, like I I've had so many conversations with Matt with Berkey and like in the house just like, "Hey, like I'm just going to be in makeup for a long time. Like that's fine, right?" He's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And I just somehow wasn't anymore. And he's like, "Oh, 45 days, that's pretty quick. I thought it'd be like a month or like 2 months, maybe three, but that was pretty quick." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how." Like it just and I just experienced that and then I started shot taking some higher stakes online and then like instantly got stuck like 50K again. Just like once again like the higher stake run bat appeared and played pretty good, like reviewed all the hands I played. Because obviously, if after like stuff like that happens, I'm just instantly, I'm just like okay, like can you please look at this, like make sure I'm not insane, like please. So like we looked at the hands and like they're like yeah, like sometimes you just lose, and then in November like I just won the tournament for 200 and then got out of makeup again. So I got like a pretty timely tournament win. But like before that, like I just sort of accept that it's inevitable. And when you play higher stakes and you lose, you just really have to be in the mindset of just understanding that you're going to go through tough times. Like tough times exist for everyone. It's not just me. All of my friends have been, and also like hearing stories from like Nick and Chewy just being like infinite in makeup or like broke or like all of it. Like it just
Yeah.
sort of makes me realize like, yeah, like it's a pretty tough situation, but like my support system's still here. My life didn't change. The only thing that changes is the overall dollars in the stake. And that's a really rare thing to have in your life, especially for me being like super young, 21, and not really like needing money per se, because like I don't really go out and like do much. Like I only spend money on like food and rent. So like I'm not in a spot where my life changes. It's just something where it sucks. Like, because obviously, given the choice, I do not want to be in makeup. Like I'm not asking to be like 6 figures in makeup because I can,
Yeah.
but it's something that I just accept because that's part of what I signed up for, playing high stakes stuff,
Yeah.
and just sort of being okay with that and coming to terms with potential downsides and just
Hmm.
being really like grateful, but not in like a weird way of just being
Yeah.
really thankful for the people that I have around me that still believe in me even when I lose a bunch of buy-ins. Like, hey, like you're still the champ, you know? Like you're still out there fighting. Like, don't worry about it. Like, keep your head up, champ. You know, like, and Nick's like my biggest hype man. Like, it's so funny, man. Like he's so great. Like he'll just like I'll like lose and be like, keep your head up, champ. I don't want to hear that shit. Like all that kind of stuff, you know? Like, and it's just we just get along so well that it's just a really good fit, and I'm really happy for it. And it's just an unreal experience.
Yeah, it seems you're having some very great mentors, which is very important. And everyone that is listening might think, "Oh, yeah, okay, he got great poker players." I mean, yeah, so, but you also needed to reach out, right? And I see
Yeah,
also a lot of people trying to. First of all, a lot of them are not even trying, so they find the excuse, "Well, I don't have these great people in my life, so I
right.
can't excel in something."
Yeah,
And then also when I see the way they're reaching out to people, it's like, dude, I would never respond to you because you just come across as very needy and seeking
yeah,
value. You still need to also build a relationship and show people, hey, I'm also a positive person. I'm very supportive and I'm very
yeah,
serious about this. And this is probably also why Joey could really relate with you and is
yeah,
supporting you and invited you, to do content together because he see like this guy is serious about it.
yeah,
And he's a fun guy. We can
yeah,
have a good time, and he's probably also getting something back from you, your energy that you also care about him, right? And
yeah. Of course.
if you can't signalize that, then people are rather going to be like, no, I'm not going to
Yeah,
respond,
like
or
for me, like when I first met Chewy and Nick, it was through streaming. Like I was just streaming on Twitch. Like
Mhm.
I was just streaming like 500 Zoom. Like I was just streaming stuff, and then somehow, not sure how, just like random kind of luck, I had a conversation with Dan Zach just about some hands that I played, and I streamed it. So Chewy somehow was just in the stream, like we were just using Pio, just like running Sims on stream, and Chewy like messaged me like privately, was like, "Oh hey, like I've watched some of your stuff, like I'd be really interested in like coming on the stream and just talking about some things." And I was like, "Yeah, obviously, like of course, like that'd be great." So like we ended up doing that, and then from there, like we just kind of had conversations off stream as well, and then like just sort of got really lucky in that regard, in the sense of just I was just streaming on Twitch. Like I was just streaming for
I,
fun.
I I have to jump. I don't want this is a standalone. I just
Yeah,
got like because if you wouldn't have put yourself out there on Twitch, this wouldn't have happened, right? So you created the opportunity that people can see you and reach out to you as well. This is why I always encourage people, man, like post hands, respond to people, be good, and suddenly you will have people have messaging you that might be way more experienced. Hey, I like your vibes. I can resonate with the way you approach this game. Let's do some studying together. I did the same shit when I started. I was grinding the pokerstrategy.com, a forum, posting hands, responding to others. I met Stefan Sondheim, I met Fedor Holz, I met Rainer Kempe through these kind
yeah,
of like it was not just that they magically appeared on my door and
right. It
I
didn't just like
it's like
exist. Yeah,
yeah, because you got lucky, but you created it. You were responsible for creating this. Like, so put yourself out there, grind the forums, be active, be supportive, and then you're going to be attracting some very dope people that's going to be pushing you and supporting you to unimaginable limits that you would have never expected to be real
yeah.
or come
Like
real. Yeah.
it all just kind of happened from like a lucky situation for sure. But it was also something like I was streaming on Twitch every day anyways. Like I just streamed for hours. Like I became cool with Nick Marchington just from like streaming like some Pio Sims and all this kind of stuff. And like he just was just in a stream and just like in the chat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
So I
cool.
mean,
Yeah.
I just kind of made a lot of friends that are
There's
people that I
also
would have never
respect.
have known otherwise
Yeah.
from just doing content online.
That's great, man.
And it's something that like it's easy to be like, yeah, like, but I don't want to stream. It's like, okay, like that's fine. But like I've also like had a lot of cool opportunities, and it's not like I streamed because I knew the opportunities would happen. I just streamed because I wanted to stream myself playing poker because I just really enjoy doing that sometimes and
Yeah.
just like streaming content. And then appearances just kind of like opportunities just arose, like things just happened that I could never expect. So like you never really know like what happens with that. And clearly for me, I got a really good situation and I got a really unreal like event happen that I would never expect to ever happen. and just sort of made the most of it, and was just spent a lot of time studying, spent a lot of time working with them, and kind of just proving, not to like other people, but just sort of like you could tell when somebody really cares, you know? Like you can tell when someone's really enthusiastic towards something and really want to like put a time and effort into it and really devote things to it. And I didn't have to prove that because that's just the way I naturally approach poker.
Hmm.
It's like I just naturally have like this same energy I have now, like always. Like when I talk about poker, or talk about things regarding poker, like I just always sort of like have the same energy where it's not something like I have to like fake. Like it's pretty easy to tell when someone's like not really enthusiastic about something
Yeah.
or like trying to be.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
like
and now you are in a place where you're going to be in a very interesting heads-up battle
yeah,
with Bill Perkins. Share a little bit about what's happening there, what's going on. Maybe for everyone that is listening, watching, who does not know what this challenge is about, maybe you can
yeah.
give some brief information about the circumstances and some details about the heads up challenge, and then tell us a little more about your preparation and when can we
Yeah,
see you.
yeah. So, heads up match is going to start June 1st. I'm
June
playing Bill
1st.
Perkins heads up at 200, 400
Online or
on, I think
live?
we're, it's gonna be a mix, but mostly online, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like some hands are gonna be like on Poker Go, like Daniel and Doug had for like their start. I think we're gonna try to make that happen. Like some content for the fans. And then, I think it's gonna be on ACR so we can play like outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
Um, so like I guess deals in that regard are kind of being worked out. I'm paying 9 big blinds per 100 for 20,000 hands. So, like effectively, if it goes the entire challenge, like he's getting laid a 720K spot, to where like basically the way this even all kind of happened was I just kind of like tweeted dumb stuff on Twitter and was like, oh, like I'll give you 9 big blinds per 100, don't even worry about it. And like he was like, well, I normally I negotiated from 5, like he wanted 13 and I said 5, and then he said 11, and then I said like 9 or something, and he said fine. But I didn't know that he offered Doug 9.75 like the week before. So like I obviously just like super negotiation fish, just kind of really messed up on that regard. But I obviously could have been left with like trying to sell action for it, because I'm obviously selling action for it, where people didn't really like my side, and I could have been like, oh, like I said this stuff, I guess this could happen, but it's not, because like I wasn't able to raise the capital to do that and look like an idiot. But like fortunately for me, like that's not the case, and I have a pretty good team on my side, like kind of helping me out and learning some heads up strategy and taking action, and this thing is gonna happen. So it should happen June 1st, and we'll see. It's gonna be 20,000 hands, and I think we're gonna have like a couple buyout options, like a third of the way through and like 66% of the way through, just in case like someone gets super wrecked and like doesn't want to play or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
If you're down,
I mean,
if you need an opponent to practice, maybe we can record something for YouTube playing heads up against each other.
yeah, of course. I mean,
think
for
it would
sure
be-
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's what
love
people.
to.
Yeah. I'm not so good in heads up, so maybe I'm not the
We'll
perfect,
see.
perfect
Everyone says
opponent.
that. But I mean, you played enough heads up like tournament poker stuff. Like, of course, heads up is a different game,
Yeah.
but like some of the stuff is still going to be the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did see you spin up that win with the king 6 suited, the triple up, find the win.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah. That was probably the most epic moment I've ever had on Twitch, because I already got out. I was like, all right, we're out there. Flash on him,
exactly.
everything.
Yeah,
I was like,
and you find it. That's what champs do.
yeah.
Like you find the spin, and then you also like win the tournament.
Yeah.
Like it was so sick.
Yeah,
It was really
for
fun to
sure,
watch.
For sure. Landon, thank you so much for joining. I'm pretty sure we're going to do more stuff in the future and share
Yeah,
more. Like,
definitely.
we can probably talk for hours, but
Yeah, for sure.
I'm happy that I can. I mean, you probably don't need an introduction anymore, but for everyone who was not is not following your journey or sees you for the first time, this is the
Yeah.
most enthusiastic player in poker right now. So yeah, and looking forward to your challenge and also your streaming. Where can people find you online?
Yeah. Twitter. I'm mostly on Twitter.
We
I
put
stream
also everything on the
sometimes.
description, but yeah, if there's
Okay.
anything
Yeah.
missing.
So basically everything is just my name, like Landon Tice. It's everywhere.
Twitch,
for Twitter
Landon
and
Twice, Twitter.
Yeah.
somewhere else on the platform, maybe where you say some more
Yeah, it's just
naughtier
Twitter and
stuff?
Twitch is just Landon Tice, and then my Instagram is like Tice Landon because Landon
Okay,
Tice was.
all
But
right. Who is
yeah,
who owns Landon Tice? We need to get this
I
back.
have no idea. We have to find out.
Yeah, man. Let's track
I
him
do have to
down.
find out. Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much, Len. Looking forward to the challenge. I'm rooting for both of you, man. I had also Bill here on the podcast. I have to be a little bit more neutral. I have to be Switzerland here. But yeah.
Yeah. For sure, it should be pretty fun, and we'll see what happens. You know, I'm
All
just
right.
gonna try to make some stuff happen.
Cool, man. Have a good
Yep.
one. Bye bye.